Welcome everyone to Saturday evening chats. This is episode 136, and we're talking, can I restore my rights in Washington State? So we'll get the banner or the brand going real quick.
In a world of uncertainty and turmoil, one man stands alone, along with his faithful sidekick. A man who entertains and educates the masses weekly, 70% of the time. Born out of the dusty plains of Washington State, now from the coastal forests of Oregon. The man, the myth, the man. G23.
So, we are joined tonight by Mr. DM Foss, the co-host extraordinaire. Welcome.
Hello.
So, first in tonight was Mr. Kingpin. Burnaby Sanchez is out there. Mr. Gun Websites. Tactical Feds out there. Fellow Oregonian CB's out there. And Mr. Warsaw Patriot. So, welcome everyone. Reloader 762 just popped in. So, the question, can I restore my rights in Washington State? And there's a couple part answer to this, which for about 98% of all people in Washington State, yes, you can restore your rights. There is steps on how to go about doing it, and we'll kind of cover those. But if you have I think it's a domestic violence charge or a sexual charge, so if you're required to register as a sex offender, now you realize that if you get caught urinating in public, you're going on the sex offenders list. So you will never be able to get your rights back. For the most part. Yes, you could apply for a presidential pardon and restoration of rights, but let's be realistic. There's probably less than 1% that will ever get that. So, we have Alaska 1 Andy who's jumped in. We shall kind of go over this little document. Oh, I forgot. Damn rookie mistakes. I keep forgetting that I haven't streamed in, 3 weeks. So, I'm not up on this. So, let's zoom in to about 170. So everyone can see it, hopefully. And it says instructions for Certificate of Restoration of Opportunity. It says, what is a Certificate of Restoration of Opportunity, or CROP? A CROP is a civil court order that reduces barriers, restores eligibility for occupational licenses. This may not be the right document. Trying to jump through real quick. So I think this is. I think they just call it, which I don't know why. easiest way to do, I'm going to tell you, is before I go through all this, there's a different site you can go to, which you can go to. This it's called Washington Gun and Civil Rights Restoration FAQ. So you can actually check if you're eligible to restore your rights. So we'll just kind of walk through this a little bit. It's pretty easy. So you're going to choose what state. It looks like this can actually be used for multiple states. Go Washington. Did your case originate in a state court or a federal court? So, of course, hopefully you got a state charge. So you can have your record sealed in firearms restoration. So we want to do firearms rights restoration. And it says, do any of the situations or offenses listed to the right apply to you or below? So it says, you have been convicted or found not guilty by reason of insanity of a serious offense, RCW 9.41.010. Says you have been convicted or found not guilty by reason of insanity of any felony, whether or not it is a serious offense. You have been convicted or found not guilty by reason of insanity for any of the following crimes when committed against another family or household member, must have been committed on or after July 1st of 1993, and then it lists assault in the fourth degree, so flipping somebody off or cussing at them, coercion, stalking, reckless endangerment, criminal trespass in the first degree, or violation of provisions of a protection order or no contact order. You have been involuntarily committed for mental health treatment. You are under 18 years of age. You are currently free on bond or personal recognition for a serious offense as defined by RCW. It should be 9 point, not 941. It should be 9.41.010. So when it says, do any of these situations listed, you can say no. Have you ever been involuntarily committed? No. And it says, were you convicted of a felony, i.e. most recent conviction? So more likely than not, it's going to be yes, you were convicted of a felony. Are you currently being charged with a felony, gross misdemeanor, or a misdemeanor crime? Hopefully, no. So there are, if it's a Class C felony that you were convicted of, you have to wait 5 years from the end of your sentence date. So when you were found guilty and they said, okay, you're going to go to jail for you know, 1 year or whatever, at that moment, the clock starts. It's not when you get released. Um, you do have to make sure, I believe, all your court fines, restitution, and everything is paid off before you can start this procedure, I do believe. Um, but you definitely want to make sure that you're like checking Class B felonies, I believe, are 7 years, and Class A felonies are 10 years. So you want to be making sure you're within um, that your time frame has uh, come up, because if you start petitioning beforehand, they're just going to throw the case out and you've wasted all that money. It's not cheap, and if you get a lawyer, you're probably anywhere in the neighborhood of 12 to $2,000 just to do the restoration of rights. Now, if you want to seal your record so that it doesn't come back up, that's going to cost you extra, and you're probably looking another $2,000 to $3,000. Um, some attorneys may be less, some attorneys may be more, and stuff. So, yep. So yeah, there's definitely you know sometimes it seems like it is kind of more of a money game, because theoretically this should just automatically happen. If you want to say, hey, 5 years after, then if you haven't committed a crime, your rights be restored. I don't think that. I think they should automatically be restored when you get released, but that's, again, um, just my thoughts on this. And it says, so we'll go on to the next eligibility question. It says, have you lived in the community, meaning not in jail or similar detention center, for 5 or more consecutive years without being convicted of a felony, gross misdemeanor, or misdemeanor crime? So hopefully you can answer yes to that question. And it says, do you have any other felony convictions on your record which prohibit you from possessing a firearm and which is counted as part of your offender score under RCW 9.94A.525? And then so this little attorney tips on the side will discuss what they're talking about so that you can answer your question correctly. So I'm going to say no. What is most important to you? Getting my record cleared as fast as possible, or you know, so you can tells you all this stuff, and then it tells you to how to go about it. I don't need to go through this. I've already done all that part. Now Washington, a lot of people watch this YouTube channel, which is Washington Gun Law, which is William Kirk, attorney at law, and here they have information on how to go about getting your firearms back, and they have a good information on here. So it says eligibility for firearms restoration depends on 1, the nature and severity of underlying conviction, and 2, the length of time you have been crime-free since conviction or release from custody. So, and all that comes into effect. The underlying conviction is the conviction which resulted in revocation, so the taking of your gun rights. If the underlying conviction is a Class A felony or sex offense, you will never be eligible to restore your gun rights in Washington. I'm not. That possibly could be. And it says restoration is not legally possible until the individual has completed specific period of time in which they are crime free. That is, they cannot be convicted of any criminal offense during that period of time. For eligibility, felons, non-Class A felonies, the individual must go at least 5 years without any criminal offense. For misdemeanors like assault in the 4th degree, domestic violence, the period is 3 years. By criminal offense, the law means any criminal law violation from felonies to simple misdemeanors. The crimes do not have to be violent in nature to prohibit restoration. Based upon this information, if you think you're eligible, the next step is to determine exactly which crime you were convicted of and when. For Washington State convictions, the easiest way to discover your record is to run your criminal history via the Washington State Patrol at the following website. It tells you there's a $12 fee to do that. Sometimes you can just go, it's cheaper if you know like what courts you were convicted in. You can just go and get all your court case information from them. Then you don't have to like pay that $12 fee. It could be a little less than that. So there's all those kinds of information on that. So I'm going to go look at some of the comments. Have you seen anything that we need to touch on right away?
Not really. Everybody's just kind of talking to each other. It's probably good if you're seeking to restore your rights, then you're probably getting your life in order. It's just, to me, it's just kind of funny that you've got so many charges or convictions that you don't remember what they all are. So you have to go to the state patrol and ask them what all your charges were.
Well, okay, so it's not that maybe you don't remember what all your charges are, because you could have, maybe remember every one of your charges. To be able to file the papers, you're going to need to know was it in what city it was done or what county it was done. You're going to need to know the charges, every charge that was filed against you. Now, when it comes time for trial and you're convicted, um, you may say they have 20 charges listed. They may only convict you on one of those, but in the court documents, all 20 of those are listed. So you could have to then list every one of those. Um, they definitely want to know what your cause number is. So if you're charged with a crime, there's going to be like a docket number, um, a unique number that's going to be identified to your specific case. This way, um, when the courts want to look stuff up, they can just look at that information instead of having to try going and searching all that. So that's why they want all that information. And not everybody, you know, keeps all that kind of information and everything. So to have, you know, what your cause number, case number for every time you got convicted, because most of the time you're probably not going to just do one crime. You're going to end up probably do, a couple different crimes. Now you may only get caught for one, and then you're pretty lucky on that. But yeah, you're going to, more likely than not, when you're in the criminal mindset, you're going to, do multiple different things before you finally wise up and realize that maybe this isn't the life for me, you know? So Warsaw says, by any chance you have attorney Saul Goodman's contact phone number? No. Um, so do you have any questions about it, Foss?
Not really. How long when you went through it, roughly how long did the process take, start to finish?
Okay, so once I, finished with all the time frame waiting, so that's the 5 year, and everything, and I did mine in a 3-part step, which was kind of stupid. I sealed my juvenile record, and then I realized, oh, when I went to try buying a gun, they're like, hey, you don't have your rights. You can't buy this. I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought this was all taken care of. So then I had to find out, oh, it's not. So then I had to go and hire a different attorney and have my record unsealed, and then have all that information gotten and petition the court to restore my rights and then reseal my record. So when I did just the latter part to undo the right, to unseal my record, get my rights restored and reseal my record, it was about 3 months.
That's not. It's not bad.
And so I hired an attorney because I was like, I want to make sure that this is all done correctly, blah, blah, blah. And, I didn't want to be like, okay, well, maybe I forgot to do one thing, or I didn't do, I didn't serve the correct people, because there's a laundry list of stuff that you have to do. You have to go there. There's a list, and so it's like I don't have the time to do all this myself. So I just paid an attorney. They were great. And so I never had to go into court. So the attorney did all of that. I just paid him the money and pretty much done with it. I gave him all the information, paid him the money, and then they got a hold of me and said, "Hey, we've got it all taken care of. Here's all the documents, and there you go." And then I probably after the court granted, because so in Washington, pretty much once you've done everything correctly and you filed the paperwork, it's just pretty much a formality. The judge is going to go in, make sure that you've done everything correctly. All the paperwork is done correctly. You've waited the proper amount of time. There's no outstanding debt that you still owe the courts or anything. And then they're just going to sign off on it. Because it's kind of Washington law, they unless there's some reason that you shouldn't be able to have your rights restored, they're just gonna sign off on the paper. What you want to hope and pray is that it's all done correctly. So once the papers are signed by the judge and filed by the courts at your county or state records department, you want to make sure that they have forwarded that information onto the FBI and to NICS. Otherwise, yes, the in Washington, the state patrol will have all that information, and you may legally be able to buy a firearm in the state of Washington because they're going to say, "Hey, yeah, all this is good." But if you try, you go down to Idaho and you're like, "Hey, I've got my firearm and whatever," and for some reason, you get run in Idaho, it comes back as you're a prohibited person, and now you're going to jail.
Our treasured home, Fire Rodder, are out there, and there's someone else that 223 DMR and James Pollard are out in the chat.
Yes, and Uncle John and Uncle Jim are both out there. So I didn't have to get my record expunged. I just chose to do that so that it would come back as absolutely nothing was there. Now, when you get your record expunged, it's going to show up as like no crime has happened. But if you commit another crime, um, all that money you spent to have your record expunged or is going to be for naught, because they're going to just unseal your record, because that's going to be used at the time uh, when you're in court. And now you're looking at, you're going to have to wait for another, X amount of years and file a bunch of money again to go and have that record re-expunged, if they'll allow it, because they may say, hey, you screwed up once before. Why should we turn around and let you, you know, do this all over again?
I had a friend that got his rights restored. Ooh, probably almost 20 years ago now. But he had become friends with a judge, and the judge took care of it for him. So
Yeah,
it was really easy for him.
you know, I probably could have, finagled and um, done something like that, because I knew a couple judges, um, and I was friends with one judge's husband, um, and everything. And so I probably could have, been like, hey, look, blah, blah, blah. And they would have been like, okay, yeah, no problem. But I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want, So Uncle Jim says, what do you do? Like, so when I got in trouble, it was um, res burglary. Um, it was vehicle prowling, uh, theft in the second degree, um, and there was some other. But I was running around with gangs, so I really didn't give a whole lot of a crap at the time. And if you go back and change things, they're but you can't do that. So yeah, um, I was charged with 30 counts of assault and battery in the first degree, but those charges all got thrown out. Um, so I never had to worry about putting any of that. Like, I was never found guilty. So it's like no harm, no foul. That never happened according to the courts. What happens when you get into a brawl? Um, so never said rape. So that was Yeah, I was hoping we were gonna have more people come on so we could discuss more of this, but doesn't seem like a whole lot of people were too super interested in this. I do have a poll going for what state should we look at next, and right now, Florida is leading at 40%. Oregon is coming in second at 35. Kansas is in third with 20%, and New York is 5%. So um, so there. What's going on? 500. There should be sound going on. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we've got sound. So it might be on your end. So I don't know if anyone else in the side chat has questions. I guarantee you, I'm willing to answer the hard questions because I've been through that process in Washington. So
Ozzy's out there.
yes. So Uncle Jim says Eastern Oregon and Washington should join Idaho. You know, I'm kind of torn on that because yeah, you could say okay, well, Idaho is conservative. Well, at this time they are, but you got a lot of people fleeing up there, from other states that are losing their that have already lost their rights and stuff, and next thing you know, they're going to be like, hey, guess what? Now you're back under the Iron Curtain again. You know, and other things is the the financial side of it is, I do believe Idaho has both sales tax and state income tax, so you're going to be double dipping there. Where Washington, yeah, they have a high sales tax, and Oregon has a income tax, but neither one of them have both. And it's not the only way. And yeah, there's about 3/4 of Oregon that wants to join. Now there was also,
Well, is that 3/4 of the population or 3/4 of the landmass? Because if 3/4 of Oregon wanted to leave the state would not be the way it is right now.
Yeah, and like you said, it's yeah, there's 3/4 of the state, but that's not population. You know, probably 70% of the entire population of Oregon is Eugene, Salem, Portland, and those are the three that pretty much control what goes on in Oregon. Um, and to say it's the only chance, well, you look back when Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, and a little bit of Western Oregon, um, pretty much south of Eugene, down to the California border and Northern California, um, all wanted to turn and go to the state of Jefferson. That would be forming a whole new state. So, G Web says, how much difference is there between states as far as how they deal with felons? So, in Washington, like you're talking about the restoration of rights, it's pretty much just a money game. And in Oregon, I haven't completely researched that a whole lot. I know that there is part of it, like as a juvenile side of it. Once you've hit a certain age, 18, 21, they automatically restore your rights, I believe. And so when I get to doing Oregon in this series, we'll look more into all of that. And then Idaho, I have no clue, so I'd have to go and research all of that. So,
I think Idaho is just a potato-based system.
probably. And then another question was, are there any studies to determine the cause and effect of getting rights back and reoffending? I haven't looked into that. Um, what groups/projects exist to assist felons, and are they state, local, or national focused, if they exist? So you have, I know, like the Innocence Project, that is a national that helps out with some, and then I think there's some other state organizations that help. Now I've never looked into seeing if they help with the restoration of rights or any of that. I kind of feel that if you did the crime, then you should be the one to have to, um, if it requires paying of fees, then maybe that you should have to do it. So I didn't have a problem with paying the fees that I had to pay. Do I believe that that should be the way. No, honestly, once you're released, um, if they determine that you're safe enough to be able to walk the street, then you should be safe enough to own a firearm. If you aren't safe enough to walk the street, then why are you? Or if you're not safe enough to own a firearm, then why are you considered safe enough to walk the streets? Now that also, can lead down a slippery slope of then saying, okay, well then everyone who does a crime should never get out of prison. You know? So I know we have Hillbilly Up out there. Mike's joined us. Keith Gregory, 500 Magnum. Miss Vanessa Kitty's out there. She says, all rights, but firearm charges are a simple request. The firearm charges have a serious determination and must be requested after the other rights were restored. Um, that might be. She says, safe to walk the streets is not what they determine for your crimes. So, agorizers out there. G Web says, should 9mm be a crime? And if yes, should you be able to get your rights to decent ammo back after choosing it? I think that depending on the people, they would be like, there's a lot of people out there that like 9mm. I'm not a big fan of it. But again, I guess that's a choice of some people.
It looks like I've been kind of searching the Googles for organizations dealing with restoration of rights, and most of them that come up are attorneys' offices. The two that I don't think this one are strictly attorneys, but Restoration of Rights Project, and then there's a Florida one, the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, which are formerly incarcerated, working to end disenfranchisement and discrimination against people with convictions. But just a kind of quick Google search, those are the two non-attorney ones that I found. But that I only spent like 5 minutes looking.
So then the Florida one's probably just focusing on the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And then the Restoration of Rights Project.
That one's that I think it's more. It looks like maybe information. There's an interactive map, so you can click on your state, and that probably tells you what to do for your state.
And that's probably like the one that I was showing, which you go through, you do all the questionnaire and everything, and then they link you to attorneys that are in their like network that may charge you a little less money or whatever. But for the most part, I don't know if there's any, and I'll do some more research before next Saturday's show to find out if there are organizations out there that will actually help, like pay fees or whatever. I don't know of any.
So is Mario? Are we gonna have to kick Mario out of here?
I think that could end up happening. I mean, we all know 40 is king.
Well, I don't know if it's king, but it's pretty good.
10 mil would be like king if it was like more uniform and they were like actually loading it closer to spec. Whereas most of the time, 10 millimeter is just the longer cartridge with a 40 cal charge in it. So until more and more factory ammos are going to actually start loading it to, a decent pressure. I don't think that 10 mil is like the best of the best. Yes, if you reload, you can actually, do better. But you can, that can then say you could do that better with any um, caliber when you're reloading, because you can tune it to the firearm that you're actually using. Um, so you can start getting better rounds. It won't matter if you're running a little 25 auto or if you're running you know, a 45-70. You can tune every round to perform the way you would want it to perform. Um, if you want it to be like a lighter recoiling, you can have, it still be a lighter recoiling round. If you want it to be, performing at its optimum, you can then start to dial in for that. So, you can create the round that you want when you're into the reloading. Mr. Idaho Rogers USMC is out there. So, you know, of course we're not behaving. So, we're let's look at the poll and see what's going on. So it looks like Florida's starting to pull a little more away, and we've got 42% of people saying Florida, 29% saying Oregon, 21% saying Kansas, and 8% saying New York. So we'll leave this running for a little bit more before we determine what state we're going to look at next. And Aussie has a good point. 10 millimeter Underwood, they do load pretty good. So does Barnes and a couple other uh, of your manufacturers. Those are going to be loading, but again, those ammos are going to cost a little bit more. And Uncle Jim says, if I was in Washington with the mag restrictions, I'd go back to 45 just like we did during the AWB. Now, so that's where a lot of people. In Washington, yes, there is a 10 round mag, but that is new magazines. Um, if you owned the magazines, you can still have them. You can still carry them. You can still use them. So to say it's that there's a mag, yeah. Like if Foss went to go out and buy new magazines, yeah, he's gonna have to buy 10 round mags. But if he's got 30 round mags already sitting at the house for whatever firearm, he can still keep those and use them. Miss Vanessa Key says a cousin got her rights restored, but she decided to pass on the fight to yeah. So you can restore like all your other rights without restoring your firearms rights in some states. Other states, it's just a blanket. If you're trying to restore your voting rights, it all falls under you're restoring all your rights at one time. Um, and so we'll get into those states as we come across them. Idaho says, I guess I'm out of the loop. Are we moving? No, I'm not planning on moving anywhere. So I started. The reason why I chose with the series to start with Washington State is because I actually had went through the process of restoring my rights in Washington State. So I figured since I have firsthand experience being able to answer anyone's questions about it, that would be the easiest way. Agrizer says I picked Kansas since it's close to Missouri, and I had thought about putting Missouri on there before Kansas. I you know I just chose. I didn't figure Kansas was going to actually rank up there as high. I figured that Kansas and New York were probably going to be closer to being, tied than what they really are. So, Miss Vanessa Kitty says, I picked New York just because it is difficult. Some states, it's just a flat out no. You can't restore your rights in that state. So now there is another way in Washington State that you can get your rights restored without having to go through the courts, which is petitioning the Washington State like DOC Department of Corrections, um, and they have um, where they can restore your rights, and uh, then the governor of the state. So right now it would be Mr. Jay Inslee, or as I like to refer to him, King Inslee, who would then have to give you a governor's pardon um, to restore your rights. So, thank you, our treasured home, for stopping in. Uh, Miss Vanessa Kitty says every large city is a friggin' dump and hellhole. I have found. Like, if you went back 10 years ago, Seattle was a lot better than what they are now. Um, there were still, some problems, but for the most part, it was a lot safer. And um, there was, it was a lot freer than it is now. And you could say the same thing with like Portland. Portland, yeah, even though it was like left leaning, it was still a lot freer than it is now. And there was less crime than what's going on right now. It all depended about what part of Seattle you're in. But if you're, you could go down to, Pike Place Market. You could go to the Kingdom or Safeco Field now. And there were safe areas. Yeah, I'm not saying that it was 100%. Like, for the most part, you were pretty safe. Now, you wouldn't catch me in Seattle unless I absolutely. I mean, there would have to be some, like, almost act of God to get me to go into Seattle. Yeah, like 70s, 80s, Seattle was really good. 90s, it's kind of started changing, but it was still, not too horrible. Yeah, you got to walk through all the homeless, plus you've got to deal with, all the other bull crap that's going on, and the fact that even if somebody gets arrested, they're just going to be back out on the street within, 20 minutes, more likely than not. You have any thoughts on that, Foss?
I don't really go up to Seattle anymore, but part of that was just the drive to get to Seattle is horrible going through Tacoma. But there's been videos I've seen lately around downtown that's horrible. All the homeless and the tents and on the streets.
So the last time that I was in Seattle, yeah, there were still, homeless. but there wasn't anywhere near um, like what it is now. Um, and it's just getting worse and worse. You can say that with a lot of places now. Um, so yeah, Ozzy says, actually, I was in Redmond, but we drove into Seattle a lot. Yep, you know. All those high gas taxes for bad roads and traffic. Yeah, definitely have some high taxes on gas, and then I think they're actually going to start taking some of that away from like, or leaving the gas tax the way it is, but then they're going to start charging more on your registration. Last I heard, I don't know if they put that through because a lot of people are starting to get the um, EVs, your electric vehicles, so then they're losing money on the gas tax and everything. So they're like, okay, well now we got to figure out another way of taxing you. Did they put that in, Foss, or are they still trying to work on that?
Oh, what was it?
The like adding more fees to the registration, getting your tags and everything, because of the fact that they're losing money with all the like electric vehicles and hybrids and stuff like that. So they're gonna start
I'm
adding
not
more.
sure. It comes up every so often of uh, how the state wants to deal with that, whether it's the charge. The big one that keeps popping up is per mile, um, rather than like the gas tax. But I don't think that'll go anywhere ever. So as far as I know, no, nothing specific. And to address Uncle Jim and Uncle John, yes, rest in peace, uh, JP Patches and Gertrude.
Yep. So Uncle Jim says I used to walk to school alone in Seattle, grade school, with no worries. Try that now. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't be catching me walking in certain areas in Seattle um, as a kid. Yeah, there's a lot of city councils that have gone um, Democratic in Washington. Um, I know where I used to live. Um, it was super conservative, and as I was getting ready to flee out of there, it was turning not so super conservative. And the last time I knew, it was starting to go even more to the Democratic side. And Uncle John says, "Must suck to be a parent these days." I guess you'd have to define what you mean by parent, because if you start looking at like a lot of things that um, kids not wanting to listen to anyone, um, is there really parenting going on? Because you start seeing a lot of kids that are attacking their teachers, pepper spraying their teachers, um, attacking other kids on school buses, and there's nothing that happens about it. Like, you know, they're not kicked out of school, they're not arrested, and it seems like it's the teacher or the bus driver's fault that the things happen. So, yeah, you know, dinner table, chores, and punishments. That's kind of the way a lot of us grew up. Um, and on the weekends, pretty much you got to watch 2 hours of cartoons in the morning. If you didn't watch cartoons, like I wasn't a cartoons person, your butt was out the door after breakfast, and you weren't able to come back, you know, until like the street lights were coming on. Yes, the belt. Everyone, everyone knew when the belt was coming out. You know, a lot of people say that it's child abuse if you spank your kids. No, it's only child abuse if you go, you know, above and beyond. If you're just like swatting your kid, making sure you grab their attention, you know. But if you're leaving giant welts and bruises, and you know, that's a whole different thing. But yes, we need to bring discipline back. I never had to go grab the belt. If I was getting the belt, it was just going to get used on me. If I had to go get something, it was you're going to go pick your own switch, and that's what's going to get used on you. Did you ever have to pick your own switch, Foss?
No. It was either the belt or my mom liked the wooden spoon.
Yeah. My mom stopped with the wooden spoon um, because she'd break them, and like I'd be laughing because it didn't hurt because it'd break before anything. So we got Mr. ITT. I'm not from this planet out in the crowd. Great channel to watch on Sunday evenings. Um, got a lot of great content out there. Hillbilly says we would just follow the dogs through the woods and hills. Parents had no idea where we were. Yep. Yes. Bar of soap was if you cussed. You know. One of these days, I'm gonna have to get Mr. Uh, I'm not from this planet on the channel. Have him come up and hang out for a bit. So. So it was my mom graduated from the wooden spoons to um, a paddle, but yeah, I know we've we've been talking about the restoration of rights and stuff. So Hillbilly Up says in elementary, if we got in trouble at school, they would give you a knife to go outside and cut a switch for you to get a whooping with. Yeah, or they would use like a yardstick or a paddle, um, and then you were probably going to get in trouble when you got home also. So it wasn't just, hey, you got in trouble at school, it stayed there. No, you got your punishment at school, and then when you got home, bam, you got another one because you made your teacher whoop you. So now one of your parents is going to whoop you. Extension cords. I never got the extension cord. Um, Ozzy says Willow switch, Hot Wheels track, belt. I seen it all. Did you get the chocolate? Did you get the sandal thrown at you? You know, the flip flop. That's that's when you know you're in trouble. So I never had to worry about a fan blade. ITT says main reason I left the house and lived on my own. Yep. You know, Ozzy says we didn't wear flip flops on the farm. Yeah, but you know when you're in the house, you know sometimes that instead of having shoes on, you'd have your slippers or whatever. Oh, you have anything else you want to discuss there, Foss?
Not offhand.
So Warsaw says if you ever watched AGP before he passed away on YouTube, he once said he was beaten by his dad with a wire coat hanger. Yep, that kind of stuff happened. Um, there's some parents, did go overboard, but you it made you a lot better of a person than this spare the rod, spoil the child bullshit. Um, I think I think you know pretty much starting with like my generation, uh, we went too far away from like corporal punishment or whatever. And we've kind of created the uh, the situation that we're in now is because we kept saying, "Oh, well, we can't, spoil the child, spare the rod, blah blah blah." And now you look at, what's going on now, and you have to think, well, how much of that is our fault because we went from, getting the belt or whatever to pretty much, oh, I'm just going to talk to the child. I'm not going to have any kind of, real, bad disciplinary actions. I'm not going to spank them or anything like that, you know. And then it's gotten worse and worse as the generations after us. Um, to now you have kids just running the street and, hey, it's okay if I, take a gun and shoot somebody in the head. And, there's no consequences, you know. So, the saying, soft times make hard men make soft times. And, or soft times make hard men make soft time, and soft men. So, yeah, it's kind of true. So we kind of need to start going back the other way. We need to start, bringing a little more corporal punishment into the fact that, hey, if you're going to do the crime, it doesn't have to be an actual legal crime. If you're not going to follow, your parents' rules and stuff, you're probably going to get your ass whooped. Yeah, we, J Webb says 9mm is the result of soft men. Could very well be true. These kids are different now. They literally call it demon time. Little badasses. And, our society has gone away from like the two-parent system to promoting more of a one-parent household. So kids can get away with a lot more. Now, there are some states that still have the death penalty, and I think it was, South Carolina that just brought back the firing squad. So Vanessa Kitty says the soap thing stops working once you start to bite, chew, and swallow the bar. Yes and no. I mean, I guess it depends on if you form a taste for it and you don't end up with diarrhea from eating the soap. But yeah, again, I'll look at the results from the poll, and I'll probably close that here pretty quick. And wow, we are pretty close to being a four-way tie. So right now, Florida is ahead at 27%. Oregon, Kansas, and New York are all tied at 24%. So hopefully we'll get like a couple more votes in. So I'll give it, let's say, 4 more minutes. So and then we'll end that poll, and whoever's in the lead at that time will be the state that we look at next Saturday. Miss Vanessa Kitty said last meeting stopped when I stopped moving and just stood there letting Mom beat away with the leather belt. Yeah, sometimes that works. Ozzy said my grandmother used the lava. Yep, that lava soap was nasty tasting. So, yep. So, anyone else out there have any questions on like the restoration of rights in Washington State? I know there's got to be some more questions out there. Hey, Foss, comment out in the side chat.
Okay.
Okay. I had to take your mod status and change it. So now you're a managing moderator.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
I don't either, but I figured I'd give it a shot and see. I think that like I think it gives you a chance to like time out the actual like regular moderators. I don't know. I guess I should probably read on more about it.
I think I made Ozzy one on mine. I was trying to give him mod status so he could post a link, and it made him one of the whatever mod.
Yeah, they came out with this newer feature, and it's like, so really, what's the whole like big deal about it?
So it just popped up a notice for me. It says you are now a managing moderator for this channel. This creator trusts you to help them build a positive, safe community. Now you can manage blocked words, change chat mode in live, remove and review chat messages, hide or put users in timeout.
Huh. Okay. I guess that's what it does. Warsaw said the last time I got disciplined was when I was a kid, and I got smacked on the ass. Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing about the oh. So I guess we gotta wait a couple more minutes because right now Florida and Oregon are both tied at, and Kansas are all tied at 26%. So we need one more vote to like break the tie. So we got the gun-toting pacifist out there and Mr. Keith Gregory. Oh, you don't understand. You don't get a check, pacifist. You get a bill that requires you to pay the channel that's allowing you to have all that kind of extra stuff. So that's how that works. He says in the mail. Hell, you know when I came and visited you, like last year or the year before, Foss?
Yeah.
I I had another gift card for Cabela's or Bass Pro that I didn't even remember that I had. That um, uh, the gun-toting pacifist had sent me um, because of him doing that giveaway where he put people's names on the like on cards or something and then shot them. So okay, how is it we have 40 votes and we're at a dead heat, four-way tie at 25%? Wood says, I did 12 years Catholic school, which included many straight-up beatings. The idea of corporal punishment was ideal punishment is not logically driven, doesn't necessarily lead to be. Yeah. So we need one more vote out there. Either decide if we're going to choose Oregon, Kansas, New York, or Florida. So I can end the poll out there. Let me refresh it in just a second, and hopefully we can choose one of them. We got Chris from the 740 out there. What's going on? But once we can figure out what the next state is going to be, we can maybe go on to a different topic or end it. If it stays tied, we're just going to let Foss pick whatever state's next. Patriot says it's weird now that even couples find spankings fascinating And I'm not talking about spanking for discipline. Yeah, we already know. Yeah. So there we go. It looks like Florida is going to be the state we're choosing for next week's show. We've got Florida with 26 and Oregon, Kansas, and New York with 24%. So that we'll look at Florida's ability of restoring your rights on next Saturday. And what's going on, Mr. Hobbies? So I know. Yeah, I guess it's the gunshine state. I don't know. Still kind of torn about that. Really, are they super gun friendly when they don't allow open carry? Timothy Burkett says the Florida governor, so Ron DeSantis, just banned the use of digital dollar. So Hobbies was out loading 223 earlier. So that I'll have my work ahead of me for doing a lot more research into Florida. So hopefully it's not super difficult to restore your rights in Florida. And if anyone who lives in Florida has restored their rights and they want to come and talk about it, email me. I guess I should probably figure out my email address is running at the bottom of the screen, which is g23.40life@gmail.com. And, we'll get you on to discuss your process of going through getting your rights back. Yep. 500 says the best part of Florida is Miami. I think some people might say Orlando. Yeah, no, we're not. I'm just saying we need to bring discipline back, which, there's multiple ways of doing discipline, and you don't have to immediately go to, like spankings and stuff like that. But we definitely have to do something to start changing the way we have things going on. So, you have anything you want to discuss or plug before we get out of here, Foss?
Check out Chris from the 740. Pretty cool dude. Does a lot of competition shooting. A lot of good reviews. He's a Monstrum ambassador, I believe. See if I can find a link for his channel. That's all.
I know Hillbilly Up's going to be going to do his live this evening. I think it's 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. I know Brooke Cheney will be going live, I believe, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, on a Great Start Shooting Connection for suicide awareness or suicide prevention Saturday. So we're every 2 out of 3 gun deaths are suicides. So, and you going to be doing your Wednesday night chat there, Foss?
Yes. Wednesday, 10:30 p.m. Pacific.
Okay. So, again, thank everybody who's come in and hung out. Hopefully we learned something. And we'll be back next Saturday to talk about Florida and if it's an easy or hard process to possibly restore your rights. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. G-Web says, is there a Saturday night chat? I believe this is the off week, right?
We just had a Saturday night chat. It's Saturday night, and we just chatted.
So you're not doing your overnight tonight?
No, it's an off weekend.
Okay, well, let's hit the outro.